Hello and good afternoon, everyone. We are about to start for our webinar, Study UK and COVID-19, what to expect from UK Higher Education Forum 2020 onwards. We have a few attendees that are in waiting list, so let's just wait for 1 to 2 minutes for more attendees coming in. All right, we'll start. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this webinar, Study UK and COVID-19, what to expect from UK higher education from 2020 onwards. Thank you for joining us today. I hope everyone is as well as can be at this time. My name is Rifhan Roslan, and I am the Education Program Manager at the British Council Malaysia. I'm also joined by Helen Young, Senior Marketing Manager for Study UK in East Asia, and Isha Azman, Program Manager, Society, British Council Malaysia. Today, we will be sharing with you some of the top reasons to study at UK universities, some resource which may help you with your decision-making process, information on how UK universities are tackling the effects of COVID-19, and what your studies might look like over the coming months. Just quickly before we get started, a note on how you can interact with our panelists during this session. We want the webinar to be interactive as much as possible. So do please share any questions in the Q&A box. We will do our best to put them to the panel if we have sufficient time at the end of this webinar. We've also collated the questions you all sent through in advance, many of which will be addressed during this panel discussion. We will share a recording of today's session with all attendees too. Next slide, please. So first of all, let me share with you some of the top reasons that international students choose UK as the study destination. Next slide, please. It is well known for its world-ranked universities. 3 of the world's top 10 universities are in the UK, for example, Oxford, Cambridge, and Imperial. But that's not at all. These high-quality higher education institutions can be found right across the UK, no matter where you choose to study in the UK. So you can be sure that you will receive a top quality education that will serve you throughout your life. Studying in the UK will help to kickstart your career. Remember that most UK master's courses are only a year long, and so you can graduate and start earning sooner, apply your knowledge to the real world. There may be the chance for you to get involved in internships, work placements, volunteering, dissertation placement as part of your studies, and academics and employers across the globe will admire and respect the formidable reputation of the UK's education system. And our graduates are among the most employable in the entire world. They have a significant competitive edge over peers educated in other countries. They are progressing further, being promoted quicker and earning more because of the prestigious education that they have received in the UK. Next up, please. The UK is one of the world's trusted and most innovative countries and has consistently been at the forefront of science, culture, finance, politics, and more. The UK is the birthplace of many world-changing events from the Industrial Revolution to the invention of World Wide Web. And for a small country, it continues to exert enormous global influence. The impressive culture of innovation and invention will inspire you to get the very best out of your own studies. And as our teachers are among the brightest in the world, studying in the UK is an opportunity to draw from a wealth of experience and learn from the very best. This education will enable you to transform by giving you the experience and insights that are high in demand all over the world. Studying in the UK means studying in the home of English language, the international language of business. Not only this, but students in the UK are encouraged to grow their communication skills through regular sharing and presentations. Next slide. The UK is a global powerhouse of science and research, with so many universities at the cutting edge of global discoveries and emerging technology. UK students graduate with insights and experience that are high in demand around the world. Although it represents just 0.9% of the global population, the UK produces 14% of the world's most highly cited scientific research. Right. The UK is one of the most trusted and popular study destinations in the world, according to OECD in 2020. And in 2018 and 19, over 485,000 undergraduates and postgraduates choose to study in the UK over other countries. As a student here, you will meet people from all backgrounds and from all walks of life. More than a quarter of the UK's teaching staff is from overseas, according to the Universities UK International in this year. Creating a wealth of international experience for students to draw upon, one in four world leaders have studied in the UK, according to Times in London last year. You'll be encouraged to push your imagination as far as possible, and you will learn the view in this world in a unique and life-changing way. The UK is highly diverse with the different cultures and religions from all over the world, creating a unique feel in every different city. You'll find a vibrant and varied atmosphere wherever you go, from festivals to art and culture. The diversity of world food on offer in the UK is growing at all times, so whether you want to discover new tastes or find dishes and ingredients from home, there's plenty to explore. Slide. This is where the crucial part of our webinar. Perhaps if you are prospective students and are still deciding, and for those of you who haven't applied to the university or not sure where to start, remember that university rankings are not everything. Make sure you choose your subject based on your personal passion and what you want to do later on in this life. In terms of the university you choose, have a think about the type of places you want to spend your time, whether it is a large or small city or it is going to be at a countryside. You may also find out about the university links to industry and links to overseas countries. To help you, take a look at the Study UK University Finder tool. As you may see in the slides, all you need to do is plug in your desired subject and education level. Then it will show you which UK universities offer your subject. Please visit the Study UK website and search Find University for more information. Next slide. Perhaps if you are still unsure, we've designed some free online courses to help you try before you buy. Take a look at the MOOCs on offer on FutureLearn. You can choose over 250 free courses by UK universities, which will give you a sense of what it might to be to study in the UK, to study a UK course. There is also the Prepare to Study and Live in the UK MOOC. This is an online course which goes live on 6th of July via the link here on the screen, as you can see. I will tell you all about what studying in the UK is like, how courses are structured, what sort of academic English you might need to know and more. So you need to register now. We will send you the link to prepare to study and live in the UK courses after this webinar. And I'm sure that if you receive the invitation to this webinar that we are having now, I have also sent the online course of this MOOC, the link to it. If they haven't shared it, please ask them. If not, you may get it after this webinar when I send the thank you email. This is also a fundamental and a very important part in our slide about the UK immigration route. From summer 2021, means next year, international students will be able to benefit from 2 years work experience in the UK upon graduation. Through the new graduate route, it will be available to international students who have a valid Tier 4 visa at the time of the application and have successfully completed a degree at the undergraduate level or above at a higher education provider with a track record of compliance. Successful applicants on this route will be able to stay and work or look for work in the UK at any skill level for a maximum period of 2 years. Graduates will be able to switch into skilled work once they have found a suitable job. The new route will be launched in the summer of 2021, it's next year, meaning that any eligible students who graduates in the summer of 2021 or after, you will be able to apply for the route. This includes students who have already started their courses. The graduate route will require a new visa application. It will include payment of a visa fee and the immigration health surcharge. The exact fee will be set out in due course, and the UK government has confirmed that if you begin your studies through distance learning in 2020 to 2021 academic year, you will still be eligible to apply for the graduate route, provided you arrive in the UK by 6 April 2021. Slide. In terms of scholarships, I'm sure that many of you are asking or have this inquiry. In terms of UK scholarships, receiving financial support could help you achieve your dreams. I'm sure about that. Be it progressing your career, starting your own business, or bringing change opportunity to your community. The UK government offers hundreds of scholarships, bursaries, and additional financial support to international students. Hence, please visit the studyukbritishcouncil.org/scholarships to explore your options. Many institutions also offer their own financial assistance, and you can check their website for more information. Lots of universities offer fully funded postgraduate studentships. You can find out more at www.postgraduatestudentships.co.uk as it appears in the slides. And for Great Study UK scholarship, the Study UK Great Postgraduate Scholarships, the only universities that are still opening now is the Ulster University, which the deadline to be on the 3rd of July this year. And to this part, COVID-19 and 2020-2021 admissions, I would like to hand over to my colleague Helen Yang for more information.
Thank you very much, Rifan. Thank you for that. And I hope some of those points that Rifan shared with you all do encourage you that the UK very much is welcoming international students at this time, and that it really will serve you going forwards. Thank you for having me today, and it's great to speak to you all. I'm speaking to you from London today, where it's a little bit rainy, but nice and warm. So I hope you're all well in Malaysia. So to kick off, if we move to the next slide, I am going to be talking to you now about starting a new course in 2020-2021. So we mean from this autumn. And I know that a lot of you with us here today, this is where your questions do really lie. So I'd like to begin by saying the UK is open for business at the moment, and by that I mean recruitment is happening now. Okay, so although admissions processes might look slightly different, or the modes of teaching might look slightly different this year because of COVID-19, actually, you know, the UK's world-class universities are continuing to recruit international students, and you're very much encouraged to apply. To give you a little idea of how things are at the moment in the UK, because obviously they're different to Malaysia, to other countries as well, perhaps, it's starting to look a lot more positive. We're learning to distance ourselves, you know, in socially distanced ways. Things are going to a new normal, as they are in Malaysia. Things are reopening here, and we're being encouraged, of course, to wear face coverings, to keep a distance from people. There's a limit on the people that we can be in touch with, but the government is very much looking at reopening. So just to give you a little bit of background there. Most universities are preparing to welcome new students this autumn, with some adjustments to learning for semester 1, with a small number choosing to teach online for the autumn term. So many will use a blend of face-to-face learning and online technology and tools to enhance the student education. So really what we're looking at is probably 3 scenarios. So the first scenario is that the COVID situation really does improve to a large extent, and that will mean that the majority of things do happen on campus. The second scenario is at the moment the most likely. So the second scenario is that things are improving, but we will need to keep socially distanced. So what does that mean for UK education? That means that actually the universities are saying they will be open this autumn. Some things will happen on campus, but some things will also happen online. So what are these things? Well, the things that will happen online are likely to be the larger events. So for example, lectures. Okay, so if you're a law student or from another, you know, popular subject, then perhaps you'll be joined by lots of students in the lecture hall. Of course, that wouldn't be advisable at this time. So that would take place online. And then smaller tutorials would happen face-to-face, but of course, being socially distanced across the room. Now, you may be thinking, okay, I'm an international student. What about time difference, for example? Of course, they're thinking about this at the moment, and they're making sure the timetable is appropriately tweaked so that it's, you know, it's possible for all. The third scenario is that, you know, the international COVID situation worsens again, as we've seen in some countries, and that would mean that more things would need to take place online. So they really are monitoring the situation and adjusting accordingly. But most universities have said they are opening their campuses this autumn and welcoming students. It just means there's this blended learning approach between face-to-face and online. And if you are concerned about online learning, just a couple of tips. One is, do check out Study UK on Twitter. So that on Study UK on Twitter, you'll see a variety of videos from international students talking about what it's like at the moment actually studying online. Because you've got to remember, this isn't something that will be new to you in the autumn. Actually, current international students and current domestic UK students they've been doing this since COVID began, you know, earlier this year. So the universities have had quite a while now to really get used to running things in this way. So do check that out. And as well, we've had some feedback from students that the fact that it's done online means that they really have more time, you know, to do self-study and to really get acquainted with the subject rather than having to keep up with a lecture all the time, especially if English isn't your first language. It also means that you have sort of very good links in with the professors, because you can speak to them online all the time as well. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention as well is, you know, where safe to do so, of course, face-to-face lectures and practical sessions will carry on. But the way that the universities are ensuring that you're keeping safe is by creating something called bubbles. So what this means is they're bringing groups together who are studying together. So where ordinarily in the UK, you know, for example, if you're an engineering student, you might be living alongside art students and science students and computer science students. Actually, what they're considering is engineering students live closer together, and that means that you're going to your studies together and also living together so that you can actually socialize because you're not seeing others. So that's the social bubble that they're talking about there. Whatever the study experience will be, you really can rest assured that, you know, you can be guaranteed that the learning experience will be just as high, as top-notch as it usually is in the UK, and which is why the UK has the great reputation that Rifan spoke to you a moment ago about. You really should, if you have any queries, contact the admissions team at your university, because they are the ones who have the specific information about your institution. Everything I'm telling you today is across the board for the UK, but of course each one will be dealing with it ever so slightly differently. So do get in touch with them if you do have any questions. Okay, let's move to the next slide if that's okay. So let's have a look at visas and English. I know some of you will have questions about this. The UK government has announced concessions to students who have or will be applying for Tier 4 student visas in light of COVID-19. So this is really good news. They're trying to be as flexible as possible because they know that international students are facing certain obstacles because of the coronavirus. So the first thing that they've confirmed is they've confirmed that new international students starting their degrees in 2020-2021 academic year, so this year, will be able to begin their studies through distance learning, if that's what is necessary, and they will remain eligible for their Tier 4 student visa. And of course, this is provided that you do transition to face-to-face learning as soon as the circumstances allow for it. If you're studying through distance learning as well, you will still be eligible to apply for the new graduate route, which Rifan referred to, and stay in the UK for up to 2 years for the, to study, to look for work or to work after your studies. And that's as long as you arrive in the UK by the 6th of April. So as long as you arrive in the UK by the 6th of April, all of you will be eligible for this post-study work visa upon graduation. The good news about visas is that in Malaysia, the KL Visa Centre has reopened. It reopened on the 1st of June, but it is a phased reopening. So what that means is that they're getting up to speed with the numbers coming in. So what you need to do is take a look at their website and have a look at when there might be a slot available. The thing is, though, at the moment, of course, for Malaysia, people aren't able to leave the country until after 31st of August. So we wouldn't be recommending that people go to apply straight away. And of course, you'll need to be considering flights and things as well. So again, I would advise, do speak with your university, with the admissions team, with the international team, to see what are their plans for this autumn, because you need to have confirmation that face-to-face study is commencing in autumn for you to go ahead and apply. But really what the UK government is recommending at the moment is that you take this time to familiarise yourself with the system, with the process, because you have the time to do that at the moment. So do take a look at what forms are required, for example. Now with the visas, you can apply online. You can begin your application online, but you must go to the centre to supply your biometric information. So that means your fingerprint and other such things. But you can start from the comfort of your own home. The other thing to mention as well is that the IELTS examinations have commenced again with our offices in Malaysia, so that's also good news. And some of you may have been concerned about English testing when things were closed, and actually, again, the universities are very aware of this. This is not just for Malaysian students, this is across the board, across the world. People have faced these sort of difficulties and these issues. So the universities have been making flexibilities for this. And now, obviously, it's not such an issue because IELTS has recommenced. But what they were doing is saying, here's this other test you could do, perhaps if the centre wasn't opened. But do contact the admissions team to see what English proof they require from you. Okay, let's move across to our next slide. So support for international students. What is it that the universities are doing to ensure that you are safe and that you are well? The UK higher education sector really has gone above and beyond to ensure that your physical and mental health and well-being are prioritised. So, this isn't just for students. Of course, the students are the priority, but it's also for staff. It's for the whole community. This is really their priority at the moment. So many universities have already implemented a number of COVID-19 support services that current and future international students such as yourselves can access. Because as I said, international students have been on campus this year already and they've needed these support services, so they're very much in place. Do contact your institution for information on what they're doing. But to give you an idea of some of the things in the UK. So first of all, we have the UK's National Health Service, which is available to all and to all international students. Of course, nobody wants to think about needing treatment at any time, but if you did, the support is very much there for you. The UK government has also set out new guidance on face coverings, as I mentioned, and it advises people, if they can, to wear a face covering in enclosed spaces where social distancing isn't always as possible. You know, in shops, on public transport, this sort of thing. But of course, face coverings do not replace social distancing. So we're very much being encouraged to, you know, to keep our distance from each other to remain safe. The UK government has also provided guidance for COVID-19 cleaning of non-healthcare settings, which covers environments such as student accommodation and other spaces within the community. So what you could imagine seeing is, you know, for example, in a bathroom area, you'd have, you know, if you had sinks where everybody washes their hands, it will have divides between each one to ensure they're safe. In a student kitchen, for example, or in communal spaces, you'll be seeing hand sanitizer everywhere, so that's safe too. Some of you may be asking about self-isolation. You may have heard about this. So from now, the UK government is asking that anybody coming from overseas to the UK must self-isolate for 14 days. This includes international students. Now, you're not to be concerned about this because the government is working with the UK universities to ensure that students receive the very, very best welcome when they come here. And the universities have already set up special accommodation for international students coming in who do need to self-isolate. So things you might see are ensuring that students have ensuite bathrooms, so a bathroom within their own living quarters, so they do not need to share with other students during those 14 days. The universities are also arranging food drops for you, so because of course you don't want to be going out to be getting food during those 14 days, so the universities are arranging that for you. And we've seen evidence across the UK with the universities providing, in some cases, up to 3 free meals a day for students who weren't able to you know, leave their accommodation. So really great things happening. And the other things that we've seen UK universities doing is some news updates to students so that they know exactly what's going on, so they're not having to follow the news and social media and wondering what's going on. Actually, they're giving very much up-to-date information to all their students. Some universities, as I said, have been doing food drops. They've been organising virtual social sessions as well, because of course, you know, as a student, you're going for the education, but another huge part of it is the student life. You want to be meeting your friends, your you know, your teaching staff as well, and this is being arranged online. There are music sessions going online, even online sports sort of things. So you know, and this is true as well for Freshers Week. So in case you don't know what Freshers Week is, this is where the new students who arrive at the university ordinarily have a week of social activities. So the universities are already putting in plans in place with the student unions to ensure that there are virtual sessions going on as well if anybody can't be there. So rest assured that really, you know, that student life is very much alive and well, and the university is there to support you, as are your peers as well. And you've got to remember that the universities have very, very good you know, support services on campus, as well as the student union. They have direct telephone lines you can call 24/7. They have mental health support on campus as well. There are charities in the UK that you can reach out to free of charge as well. So you very much will be supported during your time here. Okay, let's move through to the next slide then, if that's okay. So I want to give you all some useful links, okay, about where you can go for some further information. So the first one I would advise is the Study UK website. We'll be sharing these slides after you with you, so afterwards. So don't worry about scribbling down too many notes. But do check out the Study UK website. If you just go onto Google and type Study UK, you'll see it pop up straight away. And on there, we have all the information that you need about health and well-being, about admissions, about visas, travel, all of those questions you may have. The other one I would definitely recommend you look at is UKCISA, UKCISA. Now, this organisation is providing some really fantastic FAQs on its website if you follow this link once we've sent it to you. And on there, again, it will cover questions like, okay, when is it that I can, you know, apply for my visa? When can I travel to the UK? can I work whilst I study? All of these sorts of questions, they are on there. For visa and distance learning questions, you can follow this link from the Home Office guidance. The Home Office is the government department who looks after the visas for the UK, so very much check in with them. Also, many of you will be aware of UCAS, that's the platform that you apply for undergraduate studies in the UK. So do take a look. They've got a very good page for international students, actually, which I would recommend you all take a look at. So do go there. And as I keep saying, please do contact your institution for the most up-to-date advice on what's happening at that institution. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Rifan now for the next slide.
All right, thank you, Helen, for the insightful information that you're given in terms of the COVID-19, how the UK is dealing with it. So now I would like to go through the upcoming events that we are going to have next month. Is the Study UK pre-departure briefing Malaysia on the 22nd of July. So basically this pre-departure briefing, it will be joined by the UK Visas and Immigration Officer itself. The person is in charge in Asia Pacific, and we're also going to invite a few UK alumni in Malaysia, quite an established one. And then we're also going to invite current students in the UK and key students in some of the big society in the UK, so that they will be able to give you a perspective on how they are dealing with their study and COVID and how they are coping with it. So, and you will also be joined by me and Helen, and we are able to provide you with more informative question and answer in terms of free travel advice. So please do book your calendar from 3 to 4:15 Malaysia time, and you can register at the link on the slides. Don't worry about this, as we will send you after this webinar. So if you have a very specific questions that we are not able to answer for the visa, so please do keep an eye on this 22nd of July, and please, I do urge you to attend this one next month. Next slide. So now we are at the Q&A sessions. We are going to go through some of the questions that you have posted. Now I would like to invite my colleague Isha to moderate this session.
Hi, thank you, Rifan and Helen, for that informative session. We have received a few questions from our attendees. So let's start with one from Nazri. Will quarantine accommodation be provided for parents who will be accompanying the students?
Thank you, Nazri. So my advice to you would be to get in touch with your the university of your child, actually. If you're the parent, to see what the situation is for them. They may have recommendations. My understanding is that the university will take responsibility for the students' accommodation. So I'm not sure about the parents for each university. So best to check in with the institution themselves. They'll have recommendations for you.
Sorry, should have put it there. We have another question about the visa application processes. How long does a visa application process require, including the ATAS application? Because I think a lot of them are thinking about processing when to start submitting the application. So if you can answer the question.
Of course, I'll take that question. So first piece of advice, check with the admissions team to see, are they encouraging you to apply for your visa at this time? Because actually you need confirmation that face-to-face teaching is commencing and that they're ready for you to arrive, because you need that confirmation before you can apply for permission to study in the UK. The usual processing time for a UK visa is 15 working days, usually, okay? But remember that the visa centre opened on the 1st of June in a phased approach, and now have a backlog of visa applications, which they're working through at this time. The other thing is as well, because a lot of university students are waiting and seeing, so seeing what the situation is before applying for their visa. So they are expecting there will be a rush. So they are encouraging students to apply earlier rather than later. You can apply for your visa up to 3 months in advance. So do check in with your institution.
Okay. Just hold on while I read a few questions here. We have one asking about updates. So would you have any updates on the condition on arrival in Heathrow Airport? Will there be any health check, etc.?
That's a good question. So they are taking extra precautions when you get to the airport. One thing that you will find is they will ask for evidence of where you are going to stay. So when you're coming on arrival, you need to make sure you've got your address of your accommodation sort of printed out, because they need to see that you're going to go straight there for your 14 days self-isolation. Do take a look at that. I think as well, your university websites, I'm sure you're all taking a look at them a lot, but they will have a section for international students and they will answer some of these questions. But do please go prepared with your information about your accommodation.
Okay. We have a question about mental health. I am a student accepting depression treatment in Malaysia. Can I get the same treatment in UK? Continue the medication from NHS? And do I need to pay for it, or the fee already covered in the visa?
Good question. Okay, so with the National Health Service, it really is a brilliant service, and they have both physical and mental health support, of course. As an international student, you will pay the international health surcharge, which is a separate fee with your visa when you're applying. And this will cover treatment. So what I would advise for anybody with any conditions is that you bring all of the information you can from your current doctor. Make sure you've got that with you, because you need to have the information there to pass to your new doctor in the UK. What you'll find on university campuses is that actually there is a GP. GP is the general practitioner, who's the doctor in the UK, who looks at sort of the general conditions first and then advises where to go next. So often there will be somebody on campus, and if there's not somebody on campus, because you're in a non-campus university, by which I mean the university buildings are spread across the city, then there will be a local GP you can go to, and they'll be able to give further advice to you.
Okay, so we have a question here. If I receive my CAS in August, but I only intend to arrive in the UK in November or December due to the first semester being online, would there be a problem if I apply in November?
So my first piece of advice would actually be, because obviously Rifan and myself work for the British Council and not UKVI. So to get the very, very best advice, I would say come along to our pre-departure briefing next month, which Rifan has shared with you. And we will share again the details, because we are going to be accompanied by a colleague from UK Visas and Immigration, and they'll be able to give you the specific advice. However, what I can tell you at this time is that the international students will not be penalised for not being able to travel at this time. So actually, I think it ought to be okay, because they're very aware that you need to start your virtual study before you can come to the UK. That's okay.
Okay. Okay. So one attendee mentioned, you mentioned blended learning. Can UK universities hold large classes beginning September 2020? Are UK students returning to campus in September 2020? Thanks.
Sure. So as I said, in fact, the majority of campuses are opening for some face-to-face sessions from September. Now, where possible, practical sessions and face-to-face sessions will return However, of course, it's not safe to have a very, very large group of students in one room together. So say a lecture hall was supposed to seat 150 students, maybe they just have a third of that number so that you're sitting, you know, several spaces away from your friends. So they're taking all of the government's guidelines into account. The thing is about a UK education is different to some other countries. A lot of the tuition, and this is why the UK education is so good, is that you're actually in much smaller groups. So that might mean seminars where there's just 10 of you. It might mean a tutorial or a supervision where it's you and your friend and the professor, or maybe even just you and the professor. And so the good thing about that is that actually some of those things can recommence because, of course, if you're keeping the right number of meters apart, then you can meet, just with a small group. So some of these things are able to recommence, but please don't be concerned that they're going to put your safety at risk. You know, you won't be in a big lecture hall if it's not safe to do so.
Okay. There's a question here about insurance arrangement. Do I need any specific insurance arrangement when I am traveling during this pandemic?
Okay. Of course, for anybody traveling overseas, it would be recommended that you get travel insurance, actually. But once you're in the UK, then it's up to you and your family what you do. But the National Health Service for your health is there, and it will be covered. Routine things will be covered for you. But if you want any more advice on this, please do check UKCISA. I know I keep mentioning this, but UKCISA, their website. They've got some very, very good FAQs on this sort of thing. I think they probably have a whole section on such questions.
Okay. Hi there. It was mentioned that our 14-day isolation upon arrival in the UK will be spent in an allocated accommodation that is paid for by the government. Where can we find out regarding this information? When will we find out information regarding this?
Sure. So any of these questions about what's going to happen with your self-isolation, do get in touch with your university, because they have specific guidelines in place for their students, because they're responsible for your safety once you're there. So do get in touch with them. The universities, a lot of them are, providing accommodation on campus, but that they will have more information than we will about the specific arrangements for their students.
Okay. Okay. So we have a question about scholarship. If I receive a Chevening scholarship for September 2020, but recently I was told that my course is only commencing in January 2021. Would there be a problem?
Okay, so Chevening is looked after by colleagues of ours in the Foreign Office, so it would be best to reach out to those who've provided you with that scholarship, and congratulations, it's fantastic that you've got it, that's a real achievement. But the thing is, the universities really are making flexibilities at the moment. So from mine and Rifan's side, actually, we have the Great British Scholarships that the British Council looks after, and we know that the universities are showing flexibilities in the postponement of studies for those scholarships. So there is the chance that flexibilities will be shown for you as well, because it's not within your power that you're choosing to postpone your course. So my advice, get in touch with the organisers of your scholarship, with the university, and they'll be able to tell you more information, but I would imagine that they will be showing flexibilities.
We've received a few new questions, so maybe we'll turn to something not related to visa now. How are the current COVID situation in the UK? Is it under control for now?
Sure. So I'm sitting here in London, and it is under control, I would say, yes, because the government is keeping an eye on the infection rate, and they're adjusting the social distancing and the precautions, by looking at that. So what that means is it's a little bit like a tap. So if the situation is becoming very bad, then they will say, right, restrictions are in place, this is what needs to happen. If the situation is less bad, then they start to give some flexibilities. So the current situation at the moment is that from the 4th of July, so that's like a couple of weeks away or so, on the 4th of July, restaurants and some other shops will start reopening. At the moment, shops have started reopening, but they're only allowed a certain number of customers in because they've got to keep the distance. From 4th of July, hairdressers, restaurants, that kind of thing will be reopening. So that gives you an idea of how it is. At the moment, we're not to go to people's houses. We can meet one another at a distance outdoors. So that's an improvement. That's an improvement for now.
Okay. Maybe we'll go to the questions that we received before this event.
Of course.
So that's one asking if by any reason international travel for students going abroad is restricted by the Malaysian government, would the UK government assist in pushing for exemptions for new first-year students?
I see. I think really, the UK will try to do what it can to support the students, but students will need to abide by the laws in place in Malaysia, first and foremost, because that's where you're based. But the UK will be welcoming you with open arms once it is safe for you to travel.
Okay. Another question. If online classes are to be held for the September term, will there be a change to the school fees?
That's a very good question. Okay. I know there's lots of questions about this because some of you may say, well, I'm doing online learning for the first part, so why am I paying the same amount as I would have paid before? The universities in the UK, as you know, and Rafan has reminded us, really are world renowned. And the reason they're world renowned is because they have such high standards. So they need to maintain these. And in order to maintain these, they have to have the certain amount of finances, of course. And for that reason, we haven't seen any announcements that fees are to be amended at this time. So I can only speak about this current time, but they need to maintain those standards. And actually, you may think that it's cheaper for them to be doing teaching online. In fact, in order for the teaching to be as good as possible, they've had to show real innovation and spend a lot more on creating these new systems. So actually, it's more expensive than normal for them, especially if you bear in mind the special precautions that they're going to have to be putting in place on campus to keep everybody safe. That's more money again. So at this time, we're seeing it to be the same fees. But for financial support for students, because they realize that this is a hard time for all families around the world financially. And to support students and their families, actually, each university has a student hardship fund. Now, the Student Hardship Fund is there for students who have been adversely affected by coronavirus. And it's used for things like student mental health support. It's used to purchase IT equipment for students who don't necessarily have the right equipment with them. So it's done on a case-by-case basis, but the support is there. There are also some universities who, for example, the students in the term just gone, they've waived some of the accommodation fees because the students haven't been able to use the accommodation they paid for. So we are seeing the universities really making flexibilities. They're very aware that financially this is a difficult time for all of us. But in terms of the fees themselves, they're likely to remain. If you're interested in finding out about any money you might be eligible for, I know Rifan already spoke to you about that, but just to recap, do check out the Study UK website. We have a special scholarships page on there that will show you the UK government scholarships. Now, UK government scholarships tend to be more for postgraduate students, and I know we have a lot of undergraduate students with us today. For undergraduate students, please check your university website. They will also have a special scholarships page on there, and all you need to do is put in your level of study, so your undergraduate student, your subject, for example, economics, where you're from, so Malaysia, and then it will show you if there are any scholarships or bursaries that you may be eligible for.
Okay. I think we have some concerns here regarding Black Lives Matter and the movement. So that's a question about is there any racism issue happening in London now due to COVID-19 situation? I think it's also related to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yes, of course, we've all seen a lot about this in the news at the moment. The UK government and the UK higher education sector has made it very, very clear that any prejudice is absolutely not accepted in the UK, in our UK community, in society, or on UK campuses. So they've really made this very, very clear recently, and your university will be particularly aware at the moment and acting very fast. So if you were to find yourself in any situation like that, you of course ought to be reporting it straight away. But the support really is there for you, and you must remember the UK, of course, is one of the best things about it is a very, very multicultural society. Particularly, the listener is asking about London. It's a particularly multicultural place, and we have all sorts of places of worship, all sorts of places to eat. So really, we're very used to here and have been very used to it for many years in our history of living together. So for the most part, is a very, very positive situation.
Okay. That's a question here. I'm a first year undergraduate student. If I'm only arriving in January 2021 because semester 1 is online, does it mean I will only be showing living expenses for half of the total expected on normal?
Yeah. No,
in other words, 9 months minimum. Now it's 4.5 months.
So, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, do check with your UK university, because of course they'll have certain rules in place. You must check with them. But it really depends on what their system is, because if they're asking you to pay up front, I can understand you be concerned about that. But if you're only paying in bits, then it's likely you're right that you won't be paying for the full whack. So do check with them.
Okay.